What are demons?
Most demons are ancient entities, some of the first entities that we've ever worshipped and worked with. Your ability to materialize your reality gets sped up massively as you interact with these beings. There are people who go towards the demons and towards darkness with destruction and self-destruction in mind, and so that's what they're going to get.
There's a mountain in the Himalayas called Kailash.
I've been obsessed with it lately. I've woken up with just Mount Kailash on my mind.
There's nothing like this. There's no energy like this on the planet. Anything you want to know on mysticism and occult and anything in the universe really is there. The situation that happened to you on YouTube, if you want to go into that.
They were paid a lot of money to write a hit piece on me. And the question mark still is who paid them? I don't know.
Okay, welcome Eric to the show. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I'm doing great. Thank you.
So I saw your videos many years ago when I was first beginning on the journey of occult and spirituality. And I gotta admit that going into the occult is quite scary. And, you know, contacting demons, I remember my first time invoking these energies, it was like, am I doing the wrong thing? And am I going into territories that might, you know, destroy my life? That didn't happen, thankfully. So,
but it can. Let's be honest, it can. Like these are very real forces, and they can destroy your life if you're not cautious, if you're not wise about how you're going forward. Absolutely, because you know, especially when we're working with the demonic and with the darker entities, the darkness there, it is unpredictability and chaos, and so that fear that you felt is not a delusion. I think it's a response to something very real, a real danger that exists there. And I think that can't be, you know, understated, that you're touching a very real force. And a couple things you need to be sure of is, does that force that you're connecting with have your best intentions in mind? And then the second thing that's probably more important is, do you have your best intentions in mind? Because a lot of people who are drawn to the demonic and the left-hand path are kind of on a self-destructive path, and all of the powers and all of the spirits and everything you're working with are going to respond to what's laying inside of you, to what your unspoken intention is. Does that make sense?
yes, it definitely does. So I watched your podcast with my friend, Sky Guardian, and yeah, I wanted to ask you some questions. I wish he would have asked you these questions. So one of the questions that I had was, what was your most powerful experience with working with demonic forces? Any crazy, wild experiences?
I mean, you know, a whole lot of poltergeist activity, you know, there's a whole, I mean, to the point that it doesn't get alarming, where, you know, you'll see things literally flying across the room, or something dematerialize and rematerialize. You know, those kinds of things are it's like on the periphery of the vortex. You'll have all kinds of things that'll move and whatever. But to be honest, the thing that really proved it for me, working with the gatekeepers specifically, was the transformation of myself. And I think I can only appreciate it now after the fact, to look back and look through all my videos and read through the books that I was writing in coordination with each of them, and see how much my whole self got twisted. That it's not just I was contacting Azazel, I first contacting him, and then letting him infest my whole life, and then letting him become me. And so over the course of 90 days, becoming Azazel, and then jumping out of that, and then becoming the next, and becoming the next. So for me, just the complete twisting and morphing of my whole self and my whole life along the path of that 3 years with each of those 9, for me, that was the most striking. Because that's, you know, you see little things moving around the house, and you hear things. You can explain that away. You can figure out some way, but what it does to you is not so easy to explain away. That's the real proof in the pudding, is what it does to you.
It must take some sense of dissolving to allow a being like that inside of yourself.
Yeah, you know, dissolving and I mean, to be honest, it is like I said before. For myself, I can see a definite self-destructive urge that's pushing me that far into the darkness, and that was part of the shadow work of those gatekeepers, of those demons, is boiling up. Why is it that you're trying to destroy yourself with everything you've got, and having to really wrestle with that in order to finally, at 40 years old, choose to be alive. Because up until then I was alive because it was just what was thrust on me. And at 40 years old, after going through the gatekeeper working for 3 years, I was finally faced with like, what am I doing here? And do I actually want to be here? Because all of the power of destruction is in your hands. And if you want to destroy yourself, go for it. And then I had to really go, wait a minute, I don't though. And why don't I? What do I actually want to be alive for? And really locked into what I feel is my destiny or my purpose. And it's the same thing I've been doing all along. It's just finally accepting it fully. And that again comes back to the proof of all of this for me. It doesn't have to, it's nothing in the outside world. Anything that happens in the outside world, this is all an illusion. This is all just an illusion and delusions. And so don't really, this isn't interesting when things happen and miracles happen in the outside world. To me, that's not interesting. It's the miracles that happen within that are really of true value.
So, what are demons? What would you say they are?
Spectacular. That's most demons are ancient entities, some of the first entities that we've ever worshipped and worked with. There seems to be a race or a species or a type of entity that made contact with early humans and has been with us ever since. And they are, this is concerning to some people, but they are a reptilian or serpentine species that in some systems they've been called Naga, but to us we call them demons. But they are a reptilian, serpentine. I want to say trans-dimensional or omnidimensional, because they don't seem trapped in any one dimension. They seem to be able to transit between them all. And according to the ancient myths, they are the projections of the universe, of the structure of the universe itself. So what are they? Is the most ancient entities that we've ever come in contact with. Their reptilian nature, it does. That's where they get their evil reputation from. And it's not necessarily that they're evil, it's just that they don't see or feel things the way we do. They have their priorities a bit different than us mammals have. And so I do feel like that makes us feel like they're evil or cold, but they're not. They're just seeing things through a filter that's a lot wider.
Do you think spirituality and occult are the same thing, or are they different?
Oh, I think the occult, I think they're different. I think spirituality would be like the big net or the big subject, whereas the occult is a unique way of approaching the spirituality through a quasi-scientific method, and it is quasi. Like, there's anybody who's using ritual magic, it's not that's not the full-on scientific method. You can't take that to Harvard, but it is a quasi-scientific method enough that you can start to plug in mechanisms and how-tos to it. And I think that's where the occult really gets into it, rather than leaning into the grace of the divinities that you're working with. Instead, you're decoding the locks to open the door. And with that, the occult does seem to provide a bit more of a direct access for those who can find the code and get through and make it work. Whereas religion, most people are just going to kind of lean into it and be pacified and never use it as a vehicle for ascent, because it's really kind of hidden in there and you've got to be searching for it. Whereas most people that come to the occult are already searching for it, and so they're more likely to get it, if that makes sense.
Talking about demons and mysticism, when you first began talking on the subject, and you said that these entities are ancient, it really touched something in my heart, like a warm feeling. Conventionally, we're not supposed to see demons as these maybe benevolent beings. They probably aren't. They're called demons for a reason. But they have this ancient kind of rooting in human beings' psychology. And there's something so familiar and almost family-like with these beings, with these entities. So I don't know what that is. Maybe you can touch upon that more.
They have a firewall up around them. And when I say firewall, I don't mean in the digital way, I mean in the spiritual way, a wall of fire around them. And that fire can be scary. It can scare people away immediately. If you're brave enough to step through that fire and actually meet the individual within, almost everybody has the experience of finding a very loving, compassionate being in there. And it is behind a mask of a dragon, behind a mask something fierce that you don't want to touch. And I think that's for a reason. I think that's a protective mechanism that those who aren't ready to really face themselves are going to have a hard time with any of this. And so they're going to look the other way. It's like a self-selection process that those who aren't ready for this, they either see nothing or they see something dangerous that they need to turn away from. And that is a feeling. And you kind of voiced this at the beginning of this conversation as well. I hear this a lot from people where they're like, half of me wants to just fall right into what you're saying, and the other half is just saying, run for the hills. This is crazy. And there is that dichotomy within this where there is something that's pulling us atavistically, something that's tugging at us that does feel like home within the darkness. But then, like you say, it is the darkness. And let's actually, if you don't mind me just rambling for a minute, I'd like to address what is the big danger within this. It's not that the demons are going to turn against you, or it's that your own inner self becomes manifest. Your ability to materialize your reality gets sped up massively as you interact with these beings. And so if you've got darkness, if you've got trauma, if you've got turmoil in you, that gets brought right to the surface, and that's what manifests. And so that is the danger in all of this does come from the self of being able to sit with whatever shadows get pulled up out of you and not go crazy and not go do crazy things. To be able to just literally just sit. And that's the huge, and you're going to find it, the demons are going to pull it out of you. But even if you sit in silence and you're able to find stillness in prayer or meditation, those things are going to bubble up anyways. The spiritual path demands that we be truthful about everything within ourselves.
I'm sure Christians are going to watch this and they're going to think I rebuke this whole conversation, and how dare you speak on these topics? You should just revert to Christ and leave demonic beings alone. It's there's not even understanding of that thing or these things. So what would you say to people like that are very heavily Christian oriented?
My daughter, I'm living in southern Utah, lots of Mormons here. And I've got a daughter, she's now turning 21. And when she was just a little kid, just a little, maybe 4 or 5 years old, she started coming home and saying, these kids can't play with me because they found out we're not Mormon. They didn't even have to find out how far we're not Mormon, just the fact that we're not Mormon. And the conversation I have with her over and over and over again is our spirituality is inclusive and accepting of everybody. Doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what you believe, it doesn't matter anything except for, are you a good person and you're welcome in my home. And it's like, that's sad that your friends can't play with you, but all of your friends are always welcome in my home. And we see a similar thing where it's a false dichotomy of us versus them, of Jesus versus the demons, but all of that is false. All of that's false. Um, you know, one of the things that your friend asked me on the interview the other day was how do I manage to thread these things together, from Buddhism to Tantra to the runes, and you don't have to thread them together. The threads are there. It's the same thing being told in every single religion. It's the exact same principles. It's the exact same values. And Christians would be, and they're going to find it really difficult to believe that demons, if you're following them, can lead you to the exact same place of personal development, of releasing your anger, of finding peace that they find within Christianity. That really is. This is one of the most amazing things I've seen with this. Is every single path you walk leads to the exact same place. Again, the big determining factor is what's your intention. There are people who go towards the demons and towards darkness with destruction and self-destruction in mind, and so that's what they're going to get. But if you're actually putting yourself into the hands of specifically the gatekeepers like Azazel, like Belial, they're going to strip away your falsehood. They're going to show you who you really are and make you deal with yourself in a major way. It's a rougher path, but again, all these paths just lead to the exact same location. Back to the self. It always just comes back to the self. And that's the thing with any god that you might worship, that in worshiping them, that you find that that's a reflection and something that you're trying to become closer like, and through your worship you're pulled into becoming more Christ-like or more Buddha-like or more Krishna-like. It's the exact same thing.
Some people have said that Christianity and the Abrahamic religions have been hijacked by different spirits or different beings. And when you go to the place of worship and you do worship, you're giving your energy to a being or an entity, not the creator himself. What do you think about that?
And that's this is actually an idea that I've only recently, like the past year or so, started really thinking about. Is if you go into your local church, they very well may, each congregation very well may be creating their own tulpa or their own egregor that they're praying to, calling it Jehovah or whatever name that they're calling it, and it might be a localized god. And this is what we see in the ancient world more, is you had local gods. You had the village god or the tribal god or the city god, and so we might be, that actually might be the case. It's really hard to say. Man, that's really hard to say. How would you know? That's one of that's one of the really, this is actually one of the really difficult philosophical areas of occultism, is how do you know if you're working with an egregor or a projection or the real deal? And one of the things is, the real deal, it's a lot harder to command them just to do whatever you want. If you tell them, turn into a raven, and it turns into a raven lickety split, there's a likelihood that that's an egregor that's responding to your thoughts more than it is an actual manifestation of the thing. And another thing is from what I've seen, is that the most authentic visions, where it's like, there's no way that I projected this, are difficult to perceive. I've glimpsed Shiva a couple times. I've glimpsed Krishna, and it's like overwhelming. It's overwhelming to the mind. Whereas just talking to most spirits that you're conjuring is not. And so there is, when you're conjuring spirits, I think there's an overlay that's happening where you're projecting your own personal version of that spirit, and then the actual spirit is able to enter and possess that form that you've given it to some degree, but that there's a peeling back of those masks and layers that can happen through repeated exposure, where you find out Azazel is not really the being that you thought he was all along.
So talk to me more about Shiva. What have you seen, and what do you think of the Hindu gods in general?
Um, Well, I will say that I find Hinduism and its many different sciences and applications to be the most direct route into the spiritual. That there's not a lot of just believing that you have to do. There's a whole lot of things that you can do to presence this yourself. The gods. When it comes to Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma, I do. I don't have the answers. I'm going to start with that. I don't have the answers. I am a seeker for sure. Because I do think that these are the actual forces of creation, of sustenance and of destruction that are manifest in these forms. But it's really interesting. All right, so my vision, the main vision I've had of Shiva was in a deep meditation. If I'm doing it right, my meditations can produce like a mini psychedelic effect, like a microdose of DMT, where I do start seeing the tunnels of light and the spinning mandalas, and most of the time it just kind of does that for a while, and it's really cool, and I just try to lose myself in that. But this one day, it was doing that, and then it just cleared up, and I saw Shiva. And interestingly, he wasn't sitting in lotus like he normally is. He was kneeling. He was in a kneeling posture, sitting up very just strong. The strength and solidity of his entire self just was massive. And speaking of massive, he was massive. Like I was in my backyard, and he was taller than my house if he would have been physically there. Massive, and he didn't say anything. He didn't even acknowledge really me that being there at all. But one thing is that I was struggling in the lotus pose to kind of hold myself, and I took that as an instruction to kneel instead, to go back to that was the first pose that I ever learned with my very first mentor, was just a simple kneeling pose, and so that's become a pose that I've kind of adopted for my final meditation for the morning, is a kneeling pose. But also, it struck me how still he was, and this since then. This was a few months ago. Since then, this has been my ongoing meditation, is to try to become that still, and that's his whole thing, is to just be perfectly still. And in that stillness, that's where all of the layers of illusion drop away. The ego itself is destroyed, and you're released from your prison. Is in that stillness. You don't have to do anything. You just have to stop doing everything. And so that was my big aha with Shiva, was and it was interesting because I'm here in the desert in southern Utah. I saw he was sitting by a river, and it was like a jungle like I've never seen in my life, just green and just a complete jungle on the side of a river, and there was like an overlap, like I could feel like I was looking across space and time somehow, like not like he had manifested like a spirit. Like if I'm calling Azazel just manifests there as a body inside of the environment. This with Shiva was I was seeing not only him but where he was at, if that makes sense.
There's a mountain in the Himalayas called Kailash. I'm not sure if you're
Yeah,
familiar with that.
I've been I've been obsessed with it lately. I've woken up with just Mount Kailash on my mind, and I look at pictures of it. I look at videos of it. I'm gonna have to join. Have you been there?
Yes, I've been there. Yes, 2023.
Can you tell me anything about what was your experience?
So it was the culmination of my life and all my spiritual work. Unknowingly, this is what it was. This is what it led me to. And when I was there, it's an overwhelming presence of energy. It is like you're swimming in an ocean or a waterfall of just tangible energy that you can feel touching your body, and it's pervading many kilometers. So this energy, this mountain is exuding this potent, powerful energy. When you step into it, it's like you're going into water, you're submerged in it. And your body changes, your physical, your face changes. My picture, my profile picture is me in Kailash. It literally, the energy is so potent and intense that it goes into you and it expresses through you. And there's nothing like this. There's no energy like this on the planet. It's the most significant thing. And when I was there, I didn't want to leave so badly. I was crying because, I mean, I had to leave. This, you can't stay there forever. But I knew I was going to go back, so I've made plans to go and take people with me in 2026, September time. So you're definitely invited. I invite you to join us.
I'll have to see if I feel ready, because that's a big, because that is a pilgrimage that I can feel I'm going to make at some point. Well, okay, so I've actually I started getting the signal that I did need to go to Mount Kailash, and I've struggled with that with myself, of like, is the mountain itself important, or is that I think it's important that matters? And so can I choose just a mountain that's a good mountain around here and call that Kailash and just think that that's my sacred mountain? But what you're saying is no, that there is, so it's said that Shiva lives inside that mountain. There are a lot of different stories about it. What do you think is actually happening that's creating that?
So the story goes, and I'm fairly sure this is the way it is that he consecrated this mountain when he was alive on the planet or walking on the planet. So all of his knowledge, all of his cosmic awareness, and everything that he knew, he just stored it into this mountain in energy form. And it's vibrating, it's exuding that. And you know, I thought the same thing, or at least my teacher, my spiritual teacher, Sadhguru, you can see behind me. He says that you don't necessarily have to go to these places. If a powerful space like this exists on the planet, you can contact it, or you can channel its energy from anywhere you are on the planet, even on Mars or somewhere halfway across the universe. But nonetheless, if you've never gone, you must go. It would be a tragedy as a human being for you to live and pass away and not see this and not come in contact with this. It's so big, it's so massive. And having gone once, I want to go every single year. It's, you know, I don't like traveling, I don't like planes, I don't like going anywhere. I want to stay still. But I have to go there. I want to go there so badly. It's just, yeah, it's too much.
So while you're there, are there specific, meditations or ceremonies that you do, or what? Well, let me preface this. All right. So a few years ago, I kind of went on a little tour where I was being guided to different spots in the world. You know, one of them was Iceland, and where a crater had hit the ground. And when I got there, it was just a feeling of I needed to walk the circumference of it, and I did that. And I was like, all right, I guess we go home now. Like, I did what I was supposed to do. The Bermuda Triangle, I went there, and it was a very clear instruction of like there wasn't anything I needed to do. I just needed to be in that location. I just needed to like plug my body into that area. So did you have like specific anything specific you were doing while you were there?
So the walk up from basically the city center, there's a little city on the base of the mountain, to actually the north face of Kailash was the most extraordinary thing that I've ever seen in my life. Your perception opens up, and this is not something that you have to really work and meditate. It's just right there. You're like walking through Shiva. He's in the floor, he's in the stones. It's palpable, it's tangible. You can even see it on the videos. I have some videos on it, just me walking to this place. He's in everything. So me going there, I went around the mountain, but that wasn't really needed or necessary. It was kind of a waste of time, to be honest. But nonetheless, when I was there in the north face, I trekked up to the actual face, which is approximately an hour and a half climb. And that's what was really needed for you to exhaust yourself, sacrifice yourself, to remove your barriers and boundaries and allow this energy to come in. So when I walked up and trekked an hour and a half to actually come face to face with the mountain, I felt like I touched all the energy. So all the energy was, I understood it, and that was it. That was all that was needed. So me staying there longer would be unnecessary and unsafe and unwise. So I went down, and then I walked around the mountain. I saw all of it, and left. So it's just about sacrificing yourself and allowing this to come in.
How long did you spend there?
2 days. So one night sleeping there, and then walking around the mountain. One night sleeping again, and then leaving.
Wow. Wow, that's quite an experience. I'm feeling through that. That's well, okay. So here's let's toss. I'd like to toss a couple things around with you. Then is I've been thinking a lot about the first gurus who came in contact with Shiva, the seven sages, right? And uh, they when they came across him meditating for forever and not needing anything, and what kind of form was he in? How were they able to perceive him in the first place? And because the big part of the story is he wasn't, from what I've gathered, he wasn't appearing for them. He wasn't meditating for them. It wasn't like a display he was doing for humans. He was meditating because that's what he did. That's just who he is. He's the meditator. He just always is. That we just happened to glimpse that. And I don't know, just what any insights you have from that initial story, because like that's such a huge thing of like, how did these, were they seeking after him, and how would they know what they're seeking after before they witness him? I don't know. What thoughts do you have on this kind of proto story of this?
Yeah, so I'll answer your question by not answering question. You're not answering your
Okay,
question.
perfect.
I'll answer it this way, that when I was there and I went around the mountain and did that whole thing, and the powerful experiences that I had, seeing so many things. Then when I was coming down and I was on a plateau of the Lake Monasterovo, there's a big lake there and just open land. So the mountain is behind me, and then there's just open land here and a road leading away. When I was on this road and just looking into the land, suddenly I perceived, or this kind of vision I perceived, or me touching the etheric energy or realm, and me being in tune with the Akashic records, and I could see how Shiva was when he was around this place, physically, how he was walking around, who he was. And just in a moment, I've seen him walking as a human being, very tall, very big, with some kind of animal skin wrapped around his waist, and some other, maybe ash or something, long hair, and just the overall energy that I got was just occult mastery. This guy was the thing. Anything you want to know about the occult, anything you want to know about your perception, that's the guy to be with or to be around. So he was definitely a tangible being, and he was a physical being. He had a human form, and yeah, just extraordinarily powerful. I don't know what else to say. I don't really know that much, like 1 or 2% have touched this energy, but it's so delicious and juicy that I want to, delve my whole life into this. And I will, and I have, and I'll continue.
Yeah. Now when you say that he walked this earth and he was a tangible being, you said that in past tense, and I wonder. Okay, so we do have this mythology repeating. The Irish have this about the Tuatha De Danann that stayed with them. The all over the world of these godlike beings that lived with us, or these gods that lived with us, and then there have been steps that we have taken away from them, and we frame that in the Kali Yuga that we're now in, where it's not that Shiva is not physical anymore. It's just that we have removed ourselves from that vibration, or I don't know. How do you perceive that?
I think, yeah, he was physical, or he is still physical. He's still a being in existence, and he can show himself to you, but maybe not physically, or you have to be really lucky or extraordinary to be that. But also, the story goes that he was here for a long time, and then he went somewhere else. He's in his kind of home place, and he visits here once in a while, non-physically or energetically, and you can perceive him. So I don't know, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and these are paradoxes, because then at the deeper level, there's nowhere that Shiva is not. Everything, yeah, everything that he is. he is truly omnipresent by the, you know, but at the very core of it. And so there's nowhere that he's not. And so, but that's an interesting idea. If there's nowhere that he's not, it is interesting that there are places like Mount Kailash where he is more present there. I don't know. Yeah, contradictions like no other. If you know, that's what they say. If you haven't reached a contradiction, you're not there yet. So we must be right there on the edge.
Yes, that's very wise. I mean, yeah, he definitely was a physical being. When I walked around this place, the Mount Kailash, when I walked around it, there's a lake on the side, which is Parvati's lake, or Shiva's wife, and she's said to bathe there, and things like this happen. So when I was there, I felt feminine energy, like an overwhelming feminine energy that almost certainly this woman was here and she was swimming in this place, and the energy of this also gotten cultivated with the stones and with the water. So, you know, that gave me more faith and more trust, not faith, trust that this is actually tangible and real and based in existence, not some imaginary things.
And so that does make me think of this world, that this world is more than we've been told it is, meaning that the gods are all playing here, hanging out here, bathing in the lakes, and that this isn't just a place where animals grow, and you know that this is not, in other words, this is not just a natural realm. This is that we're living in a supernatural divine realm. And you know, and this kind of does hint at, like, what is it? That this is all a game. I can't remember what that's called. That this is all a video game that we're living in. But there is something to that. Yeah. Yeah, simulation theory. Yeah, kind of hinting at that kind of thing, which it kind of is. This is all Maya, but yeah. No, it just does. It's hitting me more and more, I think, as time goes on and as my own immersion deepens. That we're in the middle of something very, very special and very crazy with this existence that we're all taking for granted. Even those of us that are at the peak of it and chasing this with everything we've got, we've only seen a sliver, and we're kind of taking it for granted. It's amazing to me that I've been thinking about this a lot. It's amazing to me that I want to get out of my meditations. When I'm finished with my meditation, there's that human part of me that's like, all right, let's go play a video game, or let's go, do something. It's like, really, like that. It's crazy that we don't that. And I guess I'm building it, because I guess my time in the spiritual dimensions is increasing quite a bit day by day, and so, but it is just interesting, the reality and the gift and the blessing of this that surrounds us, that we're immersed in.
Yeah, looking at the human earth and all the suffering that it has, and the trauma and the torture and the pain and blood and violence, it makes you sometimes think, well, this is maybe a bad realm, bad destination. And you have this human body, it's painful to be in, and sometimes it hurts. But having come in contact with the space, Mount Kailash, it made me realize that we are so fortunate to be here. And this being chose this place, chose this planet, and chose that location to store his knowledge. Anything you want to know on mysticism and occult and anything in the universe, really. And more than that, it just fills your body with energy, the energy that you need to survive and to elevate yourself and to expand yourself to your ultimate limit and potential is there. And so this is definitely a divine place. This is a divine place, planet Earth. We're very lucky to be here, and we have this fantastic resource, and we should all make use of it. So
Absolutely. And and the one of the big lessons that I've been taking away lately is from the Eastern philosophies, is that suffering isn't the accident that happens when you're supposed to be enjoying life. Like, suffering is built into the purpose of it all. That without suffering, without pain, without all of these things that are pulling us in all these directions, it's like these, as Azazel spoke of it, as forces within and forces without that hold you together. And so it's all of these varying forces that are all very essential. And so the suffering you're experiencing, whatever it is, is not an accident. That's not something that you're not supposed to be experiencing. That's exactly what you're supposed to be experiencing. If it weren't for that suffering, you wouldn't be able to do anything that you want to do. So embrace it. And as soon as you do start leaning into suffering, rather than trying to get away from it, whether that's as simple as you're sitting in meditation and you want to get out of it because you know your legs start to bug you or whatever, just sit in it, embrace the suffering rather than trying to not feel it. Actually feel that pain, and you'll find it goes so much deeper that you can and then the pain disappears, but you're floating deep inside yourself because you didn't lean away from it. Stop resisting pain. It's an ally.
Yes. That's what the Buddha taught to Vipassana. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with this 10-day Vipassana meditation retreat by S.N. Goenka. There's 10 days,
No, I'm not.
so there's retreats all over the world where you can go. It's free of charge. It's run by donations. And you can go sit for 10 days in complete silence. And they teach you this technique of first becoming aware of your breathing to sharpen your mind, and then scanning your body of sensations. And if you feel pain, the instruction is to not move, not distract yourself, but to really go into the pain and feel the pain and be equanimous with the pain. So I'm saying this because I'm likely going to go again for the second time very soon for this 10-day retreat. It's going to be quite painful, but quite needed.
10 days in silence. That's you know, at the beginning of this conversation, one of the things that I was saying was that even just sitting in stillness, just shutting up and sitting still and trying to shut up your mind makes all the things that are inside bubble up. So when you say it's going to be painful, is that what you're talking about? That there's that in that silence you'll be confronting yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Is it guided to the point that, like, I mean, are you just sitting in silence all day without any instruction, or is there some like structure to it?
It's guided, so it's run by this guy called S.N. Goenka, which was Indian disciple of this Burmese meditation master. And the technique comes from the Buddha himself. So it's every day you're instructed to do this, and it's very centered towards you, like performing mental surgery on yourself. So all the pain, all the trauma, all the things you've been hiding from yourself, it all bubbles up to the surface, and then it gets evaporated. So I urge anyone, excuse me, I urge anyone to look it up, investigate that. It's called Vipassana. You can go 10 days, silence. It's on donations. It's for free, essentially. They'll feed you and shelter you, but you have to follow the instructions. And yeah, transmit your pain or transmute your pain.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm actually I typed that into my thing, so I'll have that saved. But that's intense. And um, you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Typical day, 4 a.m. You wake up. You do meditation until breakfast. Light dinner, a Dharma talk, and then lights out at 9:30. So yeah, I mean, I guess if if you're going to sleep at 9:30, 4 a.m. is doable, and that's actually good. That's better for you. I've definitely developed the Western laziness where I want to sleep in as long as I can. So yeah, but no, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. The 4 a.m. wake up time is optional, so you can wake up before
Wow.
breakfast. It's only for hardcore students that want to wake up at 4 a.m.
Okay. No, that's good to know. Wow. No, awesome. Well, what other questions might you have for me before I have to let you go?
Yeah, I still want to delve into this demon occult knowledge. There's still something here. So
Yeah.
what led you? What inspired you to do this? Because it's quite a extraordinary thing to do, and maybe quite dangerous also. So what leads somebody to delve into the occult and yeah, demonic realms?
Well, I was pulled to it my whole life. Well, it's in my blood. I was given up at birth, and so it wasn't until I was 28 years old, interestingly, my Saturn return, that I meet my birth mother, and fills me in. I go, hey, I'm writing books on witchcraft, and she goes, oh, that's not surprising at all. That's what your grandma did, and that's what your great grandfather did, and we've got witches and sorcerers as far back as it goes, and writers as well. And so that's it's crazy how much does flow through the blood. So, but when I was 4 or 5 years old, I was trying to levitate my Lego blocks and just put my little blocks out, and I held my hand out and I tried to focus on them, and I had it in my mind that if I just let go enough, that it could happen. And I don't know where I got that, but I just knew I had to let go. I had to release my desire, and just the blocks would lift. And they never did. My sister came in the room though, and she says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm trying to make the blocks levitate." And she says, "Well, that's witchcraft." And I went, "Okay, cool. I'm going to take that word and store it away for later, because that was kind of a key for if I want to be able to do these things. Here happens to be a method." So I well, I grew up Mormon in the Mormon church, and I was even tinkering with all of this with the way I would pray. Rather than just praying, there was a mechanism in there I was trying to figure out, that if I prayed in a certain way, and if I could figure out how to let go of my emotions, the thing I was praying for would happen. And so I was making even trying a science of it as a little kid. And so 100%, I came into this life from previous reincarnations with knowledge already ready to go that I just had to unpack. When I was 12, the rubber hit the road. I was hanging out with my stepbrothers, and they made an Ouija board, and so we start playing this Ouija board. As we're playing it, though, I have there's an unmistakable feeling that the spirit that we're talking to is not here on the board, that it was up in the corner of the room looking down at us. And it was the first time I think I've ever become aware of a spirit in the room. And so even though we're playing with it on the board, I started kind of having my own connection with it psychically, and that opened up the floodgates for me. I was like, all right, so spirits are real. We can contact them. And so at 12 years old, I just started sneaking away to the library every chance I could get to read about this, and try to figure out what's here. And it wasn't until I was about 15 years old that I finally decided to pull the plug, see for myself. Went out for a walk, hiked up a mountain, got myself exhausted, and then at the top of the mountain, just called out, "By the powers of fire, water, earth, air, and spirit, I initiate myself into magic." And I had a couple things that I had asked for that they all came true right away. Just three. I had three wishes. I figured that's what they always say, is you get three wishes. So I made three wishes, and they all came true. And that was the start of my slide into all of this, because it wasn't just a matter then of like, does this work? No, it does work. Now let's find out how far we can push it. And so really quick, I was going to the libraries, and instead of trying to find candle magic spells, because that was kind of me trying to figure out if it worked, was candle magic spells and the little stuff. As soon as I knew it worked, it was like, all right, let's get the Necronomicon, let's get the Goetia, start figuring out these spirits that we can call. And it kind of, as far as actually including demons, I was really hesitant to call on anything demonic or to do any satanic ritual, because I was coming from that Christian upbringing. I feel like I kind of just got worn down over a little bit of time. Just as I got into magic and started learning more, the demons were always there, kind of popping up and going, hey, why don't you work with us? When, not necessarily through telling me that, but through the appearance of the Satanic Bible keeps popping in my lap. People keep saying, hey, you ever done a ritual out of here? Well, no, I never have, actually. Oh, you ever called anything from the Necronomicon? No, I've thought about it. And so finally I was, broke down and started working with these, the dark side. And I feel like that's when things really took off for me. That was, actually manifesting spirits, talking to them, getting a conversation and instruction directly from Lucifer and Azazel in how to develop myself magically. So that's my origin story.
So Lucifer is the most tangible being that I've ever called. What do you think Lucifer is? What is his history, and how does he relate to Christianity?
So his relation to Christianity, I think, is kind of accidental. That he was accidentally mentioned in the Book of Isaiah, and people really took that one because his name's thrown out. I think it's in the Book of Isaiah, or that's where it says "Son of the Morning," and there's this little passage that people went, "Oh, you see, Lucifer is the devil. It is Satan," and that's all really, I think, accidental connections that were made. Lucifer is the light bearer, and he's appeared in many different mythologies as the physical bringer of physical light from the sun to our earth, but also in the small version, he's also carrying the light from the candle to your eyes, and so in that as above, so below, as physical, so in all different directions. He's bringing any kind of illumination to you that you're ready to receive. And it's interesting that he came through so physically for you. Some people do not have that experience. Some people, I'll say for myself, I've had a very it is a light that pours down upon me, but hardly ever a body of a figure that I interact with. Um, yeah. What was your experience with
Yeah,
him like?
so I just want to quickly ask, what is with the horns and the kind of dark look that they depict him as? And he also came to me as this, and kind of a, figure like you should be careful what you do here because I don't know what this being is
Yeah.
capable of. So I'm still wrestling with this. Is he, wishing, is he a malevolent or is he benevolent? Or is this question, silly to begin with?
Ooh. Um, that's for the benevolence or malevolence question. I would liken him to the sun. Under the right conditions, perfectly benevolent. In the midsummer, you might want to take caution being too close to him. In the late winter, you're gonna want his presence around. And so it's not necessarily, and if you're using his light in the correct way, you can plant and grow all kinds of things. If you're not, he's just going to burn your garden down. And so there's, I would see him more as that kind of ultra cosmic force that just is what it is, and it's up to us to negotiate how to make that a good thing for sure. Um, and let's see, the horns. Um, Horns are a symbol of power, and a couple ways that it's really interesting is that they are like antenna of power, that they're bringing power in, but they can also be ejectors of power. But it's power that's restrained, power that's contained, power that's brought to a sharp point and only used when absolutely necessary. No animal uses their horns unless they want to, and your horns are really a kind of a last measure of defense, but it is a very powerful measure of defense. And so there is something with the horns of their power is being presented to you and shown to you, but it's restrained, is you're not getting all of it. And so there is something in that, and that goes beyond demons, that a lot of different characters throughout many mythologies appear with horns. Even here in the Southwest United States, I'll go hiking in the desert and come across petroglyphs all the time, and even the ancient Navajo and Paiute were engraving people with horns, and that was actually uh, that's a way of seeing, when you're looking at pictographs, of deciphering the story, is people, human beings that are just regular human beings, have regular hands, regular heads, but then the supernatural beings are always larger, and they almost always have horns. And so there is something with that. And I don't So in one way, I think it's tapping something in our conscious mind, and so it's like um, an archetype that's playing out of showing us in a symbolic representation of what horns symbolize. But it also seems like there must be something deeper that in their manifestation, in their organic, however they look and manifest in their own, when they're at home in the bathroom, what does a demon look like? And it might have the horns might be a thing, just like the reptilian thing seems to be a consistent thing throughout time and throughout cultures.
Some people would say or think that messing with these forces is kind of unnecessary. And you're also playing God. So why not just let go and trust the creator and have him do all it for you? Why involve yourself with these things?
Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to, but you can. Um, well, and even with that, when I say you don't have to, I do kind of think it's our purpose to. I don't think we're here just to live and eat plants and die. Like I think that we're here to push the boundaries of reality, and I even think I'll go even further that we're here to create something that hasn't been created before. And I do think that that's the expanding nature of novelty in reality. That the universe wants to create better and better things, and we are a vehicle of that. Being godlike, where we are divine. But I'll be honest, we're no more divine than any other animal here, or no more divine than a rock. But we have the additional capability of being conscious of that divinity, unlike a rock or unlike a cat. And so that combination of the conscious awareness plus our divinity is very important and very special. So why do these things? Because we're creators here in the flesh. It's our call to create. Um, I even think that this is an urge that people feel within themselves when things aren't going the way you want them to. Almost everybody turns to some sort of prayer, some sort of appeal to your creator. Whether it's you're praying to Jesus or you're trying to cast a spell, it's the exact same thing that we know that we have this capability just instinctively. Um, and I do think that religion has been established. All religion is established as a control mechanism on that. We don't want too many gods walking around. That'll be a crazy world if it's everybody's a god, and that would upset the systems of control massively. And that's why I do think, as my form of anarchy and revolution against the system, I think is that I need to become still. I need to find that own God, that godhood within me, and let that just be unleashed. And that's the whole solution to everything, actually.
My teacher Sadhguru says that the chakra for occult and magic and sorcery is the throat chakra, which is maybe a counterintuitive kind of explanation because people think that the third eye is that, the third eye is
Sure.
seeing, but this is where the actual manifestation power comes from. This is when you can actually involve yourself with life. So I'm just curious what your experience is with the throat chakra. What do you think about it? And do you have any experiences?
I've never heard about the throat chakra, but wow, that makes sense actually. Um, and because your throat chakra, it isn't your connection to your reality, but it's also really strongly your connection to other people. And it's wanting other people to understand you and wanting other people to know you. And so with that throat chakra connection, that is, because a huge part of magic is trying to make people like you, trying to get the girl, trying to get the raise at work. A good deal of it is manipulation of people in that way. So the throat chakra makes perfect sense. Now, when I at some point, like it was right around, I think 2011, 2009 or 2010 maybe, I came across Wayne Dyer's Manifest Your Destiny. And in this book, he talks about just manifestation and, kind of law of attraction. But he does what nobody else did. He actually gives a mantra, and he gives real instructions on how to activate this mantra. And it's the simple ah mantra. It's just vibrating the seed sound ah, and visualizing what you desire and releasing it into the universe to create it. So when I started doing this, I think that's the first time I started feeling that activation in my third eye. And it's interesting because as I followed that, I started finding that I naturally had less interest in the occult and more interest in meditations and in mantras and in kind of higher spirituality. And then of course that rises into the crown and kind of just keeps you there in that divine state. And so it is interesting of the toggling between those chakras. So I think there might be something to that, but that's definitely been my experience. Now with that, um, uh, I think there's a place for it all. I do think that there's a unnecessary expression of the throat chakra into manifesting the life you want, and then into the third eye for actually connecting with your divinity and doing the things that you should be doing, living your dharma, and that of course goes into the crown chakra. I think they all have a place. I do think, and that kind of gets back at the question you asked earlier of like, well, why even bother with this? Why not just release it all? Sometimes I do feel like reality gives us situations that we can take as invitations to act as God. That we can go, you know what? Like, I don't like this situation. You're one of the first. I'll tell you, one of the first times that I really stepped outside of myself with my magic, because I was just doing it in private or whatever, was my friend's brother started having a attack. And he gets his inhaler, and his inhaler's not working. Don't know what set this off, but the kid starts turning blue. And I'm 15, 16 years old at the time. I'm just hanging out. We're just hanging out playing video games at my buddy's house. And his brother basically starts dying right there. And put my hand on him. And I just sent love, healing, energy, peace, sent it from my heart directly into him through my hand. And I saw color immediately return to him. As soon as he opens his eyes, he looks at me and says, "You saved me." And I was like, what? And it is indeed becoming a vessel for something that needs to happen. That's so much more beautiful to me than all of the rituals that I've planned out and all the things that I've been like, here's the intention I want, is seeing something that needs to happen and just being able to do it, being able to work a miracle in real time. Or also, I'll change that, being able to let the miracle work through you. As soon as you think that you're the one working the miracle, that's ego taking over. You got to watch out for that. It's not you working the miracle. You've become a vessel for the thing to happen.
I guess the last thing that I wish to say or ask you is the situation that happened to you on YouTube. Maybe, I don't know if you want to go into that.
Yeah, do you have any specific questions you'd like to ask?
So
Or
it appears you've been deplatformed. YouTube has removed access. I highly disagree with that. Their decision to do that. But what inspired that? Maybe you want to give some backstory because.
yeah, really what happened with it is the BBC wrote a complete slanderous hit piece on me that they were paid to write. They were paid a lot of money to write a hit piece on me. And so the question mark still is who paid them. I don't know. But there are people that are very opposed to truth. There are people that are very opposed to power, to individuals having their own power. And so yeah, that was actually a and still is a crazy moment for me to think about. Of like I've always felt like I'm just kind of little old me doing little stuff, but I guess I must have upset somebody pretty big. But yeah, that got me deplatformed. But that was also, to be fair, that was in the middle of a whole lot of deplatforming. There were a lot of people losing their channels and losing their social media for talking about medications or talking about government or whatever. And so I do feel like I kind of was swept into a flood of people getting canceled. And to this day, like I could go back on YouTube. I could reapply and they'd probably give me my channel back. I don't care to. I don't care to. It's not a YouTube served its purpose for me in really breaking the culture into the reality of magic by showing rituals, by talking about it openly. I did realize when we first started doing Become a Living God that there was an ice wall the culture had set up that I needed to break through. And so YouTube helped me break through that, show the world what I needed to show, say what I needed to say. And its usefulness passed and its time passed. That's a really interesting it's a really interesting discipline to always be doing, is like not clinging on to whatever's happened and realizing your path continues to flow and move. And that could have been a stopping point for me. 100%. I could have just said, you know what, that's the end of my road. I guess if I'm not going to make millions of dollars at this, that I might as well stop. But instead it was like, no, wait a minute, am I doing this to make millions of dollars? No, I never was. And I was getting close to making millions of dollars on YouTube. It was ridiculous. And now I'm not. And I'm happier than I've ever been, because I've leaned into my practice in a way I just was never able to do while I was thinking about the $1 million and while I was worrying about what everybody was going to say about me and seeing, making sure I get the likes and the hearts. All of that is so fake, and I was so invested in it, and it was a poison. And so in a way, I feel like it was a blessing to yank that away from me, so that way I could settle into what is my practice really about. And so that's why I'm still sitting here today talking to you about it and still writing books and still doing my thing. Is like, it's always been a love for the actual craft. And I'm going to be honest with you, I got distracted from that. I did get distracted from that. And I'm back, baby. So that's all I got to say, is like that distraction needed to be taken away from me, because I can see the spiritual blessing that was embedded into losing all of that. And it was the biggest blessing, because I in a million ways I needed that reset so I could figure out who I actually am.
I guess I heard somewhere, read somewhere that somebody did something allegedly, and the people blamed you for it. Is that?
Yeah, that was the nature of the BBC hit piece, is that a young man who was very unwell murdered a couple women, and he had written a pact for Lucifuge. And as part of he had written this as, I'm gonna kill these people, and he was supposed to win the lottery or something stupid like that. And so that was the link that they were able to use. That he was on my forum. He signed up for a free account on my Become a Living God forum. You can sign up now. Go to becomealiving.com/forum. Anybody can sign up for free. We don't do anything. And he didn't even post anything that was weird, really. He didn't talk about anything violent on there. He came, posted a couple things, and then left. And then like 4 years later, commits this crime. And so the BBC used these threads to pull together and say that I had somehow encouraged him, even though he hadn't bought any of my books. He'd never engaged with my content in any kind of meaningful way. They still just made that link. But no, unfortunately, if he would have bought my Grimoire of Lucifuge, there were very clear instructions in there on how to make a pact, and none of it had anything to do with the lottery. And absolutely, it is said very clearly in that grimoire, do not harm the innocent. I didn't know why he put that in there. I didn't know why Lucifuge told me that, but he did. He said very specifically, keep your sword sheathed, do not harm the innocent. If he would have read that book, he would have had no excuse to think that what he was doing was in any way right or part of the path. And it's not. To be clear, like, it's not. There are people who use their religion, whether it's Catholic or Satanist or whatever, people who use their religion as an excuse to do disgusting things, that's disgusting people being disgusting. It has nothing to do with the religion. Just like, again, Catholicism in no way supports what some priests do, in the same way that, this isn't harming other people, is not at all a part of a magical path. Exactly opposite.
Okay. I want to ask you one more question, if you have the time to do so.
Yeah,
I've asked you many questions.
absolutely.
You said not harming the innocent, avoiding harming the innocent. So it leads me to conclude that harming people that maybe are bad people is permissible.
um, Oh, all right. So I've been studying the teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh for a while, well, about a year now, and anger doesn't feel good. Anger poisons me. Hatred poisons me, and so I've wondered about this very question. Like, what about in self-defense? And I have been just naturally, like, being pulled as I just go further into my ascent. I'm being pulled down the path of nonviolence, of not wanting to even harm little animals and creatures, and not wanting to step on bugs if I can avoid it, because I can feel the pain that they feel. It really is incredible as you awaken yourself that you don't want to harm things. And so this has been a question in my mind. And Thich Nhat Hanh's suggestion for this is, he's like, do what you have to do. It's important that you're alive, and so if you've got to protect yourself from attack, but don't do it in anger. Like as you're getting your shotgun out, or as you're doing whatever you've got to do to defend yourself. And to me, that's a whole new level of discipline, because that is the nature of non-attachment. Do what you have to do, but what goes on inside of you is in your control. And so if you can defend yourself and do it out of love for yourself or love for your family that you're defending, absolutely. Is it justified, man? Nothing's justified in this world. This is a nutty world. Trying to justify anything is ridiculous. Do what you have to do, but don't do it in anger or hatred. Those are poisons. If you can do what you do out of love and out of even compassion for yourself, then that's a better place to come from. But I'm telling you this is an ongoing difficult discipline for me, because not my natural state, my traumatized programmed state wants to jump to fear and to anger all the time. And so it is a constant discipline of going, no, let's lean into love. Let's lean into to peace and into joy. Because it's not because, like, I think that's better. No, because it feels better. You can see the better result of it. You can feel the result of love in your life versus hate. It's very clear. So is it all right to harm people who are not innocent? I think if you're doing it out of love and compassion, and it is, like, true that you really, out of compassion, you need to protect yourself. Yeah, absolutely, that's all right.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. You've answered all my questions. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you and your time. And let us know where we can find you. Where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. My main website is becomealiving.god.com. And so you can go there, check out all my books, video courses, all of that. I'm on TikTok, so tiktok.com/E.A Koetting. And then over on Odyssey as well, odyssee.com/E.A Koetting.
Thank you very much. See you soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it.